Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz guitarist and composer Brandon Seabrook. He is a guitarist, banjoist, and composer living in New York City, where he has established himself as one of the most unique and volatile guitarists of his generation. He honed his guitar skills at the New England Conservatory in Boston, and over the years, he has performed extensively in North and South America, Mexico, and Europe as a solo artist, bandleader, and collaborator. Along with many points in his career, he discusses his 2018 CD Convulsionaries. So get to know him and dig this interview, my friends.
Brandon, thank you for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man.
And I really dig your style. I dig what you do, and Convulsionaries is a great album. So talk to me about this endeavor.
Oh, thanks. This trio came about, we used to be a quartet with drums, and we had a show that the drummer couldn't make, so we decided to do it anyway. And I realized pretty quickly into the gig, maybe like 20 seconds in, yeah, this is something different. This feels really good. We didn't miss the drums. And my previous records that I had made are all kind of centered around drums. So, you know, it was exciting. It opened up a lot of space, dynamically. We like to, in a nanosecond, we can change dynamics or energy or density. So really without the drums there, we were really able to get into that, which we all really responded to musically and, you know, the idea of it. So that was exciting. And then we recorded. And then, you know, we worked on the music for about a year, and we recorded the album, and it came out, and we just finished the tour. We actually went through St. Louis, and so we're excited to keep it going. I mean, does that answer your question?
Absolutely it does, without a doubt. So are you originally from New York City?
No, I'm from Massachusetts. I'm from Foxborough, Massachusetts, which is this suburban town about 30 miles from Boston. So in between Boston and Providence. So I actually played in Providence more coming up. AS220, Club Babyhead, all these places in Providence in the early 90s. And then I went to school in Boston and, you know, stayed around the area, and I moved to New York in 2012. No, 2002. Oh my God.
Oh.
I have no idea what year it is. Or
I
2002. Not 2012, 2002. So, yeah, I've been here for a while, you know.
So how did everything start musically for you? And, like, what jazz albums really baptized you?
Jazz albums? Well, first it was rock and roll, you know, and punk rock and all these things. And then the first jazz albums that really spoke to me were probably Jimmy Smith organ records, because I listened to a lot of blues. You know, rock and roll led me to you know, the people that they were, you know, influenced by, you know, Elmore James, Son House, Willie Dixon, Freddie King, Buddy Guy, you know, all that stuff. So then from rock and roll I went to the blues, and then the stuff that caught my ear in jazz was more of a blues-based stuff. You know, a lot of those Jimmy Smith records, I guess some Wes Montgomery to a point. So that's the kind of first, and it had guitar, you know, Kenny Burrell, and so that kind of stuff got me into jazz. And then from there, you know, got into, you know, just kind of that opened it up. And from there, you know, got into all kinds of stuff. You know, of course, you know, Miles Davis, and, you know, and there in the fusion, Mahavishnu, and a lot of stuff, Eric Dolphy, you know, all that stuff.
The one thing, when you get into college and you start kind of coming of age, so to speak, in your jazz sense, you decide what direction you're going to take. And you've clearly taken this more experimental direction, so to speak. You've honed a very unique sound for yourself. So at the New England Conservatory, what happened in your life to say, this is the musical direction I'm going to take?
Yeah, well, NEC at the time, and I still believe that it is, was pretty open, you know. The jazz department, I did a lot of stuff in the third stream department with Rand Blake and Hank Isnetsky, and so, you know, that whole third stream thing was really influential. And plus, because, you know, I came from, you know, rock and roll and experimental, that side of things, and punk rock, that music, the energy of that music, and the way that music was organized was always a big influence. And then, you know, jazz was a big influence harmonically, compositionally, and those two worlds were always sort of like separate. Now I'm going to play jazz. Now I'm going to get serious, you know. but I could never sort of shake that energy of, punk rock and some of the, Frank Zappa or, some of the other English prog bands. So then at NEC, it was really a place that encouraged, bringing those things together, and there were a lot of musicians there at the time that I found my people who were also influenced, and I just started kind of merging the two styles there, or not two styles, many influences together, and I don't know, I just stuck with it, and it was encouraged there. I mean, in the jazz department, I mean, my recital was pretty all over the place. I remember that was a long time ago, but so that was it was a good atmosphere for that. And then I just started bands. I always had bands, so I was experimenting and just throwing things together.
Well, the other thing that helps too is being around and playing around people that have a lot of clout. And the one thing about you is, Anthony Braxton, Nels Klein, you've been around a lot of people. What do you learn either by osmosis or by actual direct contact with these kinds of people?
I see how they put together their programs. I've learned a lot about programming. I see how they, present themselves. Braxton always says, make sure you can, really speak about your work and be clear and be able to let people know what it's all about, which I'm always working on. I'm not the, that's definitely a part of my music, my presentation that I'm still, really working on. And with Nels and these people, it's just, just how they handle themselves overall, how they roll in, what they do, how they lead the bands too. And God, I'm just kind of running in circles now. But and musically, they've stuck to their path, and they're lifers. They've been doing this forever, and that's really inspiring. And I take a lot of inspiration from that. I mean, they're both. I think Anthony's almost 75, and Nels is 63 or something, maybe. Yeah, their energy is intense, and it's really inspiring. I want to be able to, keep that going myself.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that energy and that flow, are you happy with where you're at with your career, with how everything's kind of worked out up to this point?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten to make records with people that I really admire as a sideman. I've gotten to, music has taken me to a lot of places, given me a lot of different experiences. With my own music, it's, as you said, a little bit more experimental. I hate that word, but so it's a little bit harder of a path to travel with that, and especially like presenting your own music and getting people to want to present it or be a part of it on a certain level, So that's always challenging, but yeah, I can't complain about any of opportunities I've had with my own music or with being a sideman, collaborating. It's I'm lucky because I get called to do what I do most of the time, So that feels good. And I have a lot of respect for my peers. You can't have it all. I mean, maybe some people do, but yeah, I'd love to be playing my own music more out there, but that, I'll never stop working on it. So now I'm rambling on.
No, you're good. No, absolutely. And my next question is this, and I don't want to pigeonhole you because I know that we all like different music. I'm in the same boat, but there's the jazz show, and and there's an allure to the whole notion of jazz. I think we all have this shared, almost unknown amoeba that slips into our consciousness that says this just feels right, And I was a student of Miles Davis and just progressed from there. So my question very simply is this: why do you love jazz?
I love jazz because the meaning of jazz is, is individual, It's an individual expression. It really leaves, it's an art form that champions individual expression, right? I mean, where else do you really have that? Improvisation, group interplay, and that's always been the most attractive part of it to me, that it always welcomes that. I mean, it needs that to really flourish,
One of the things that is a great teacher to all of us is the live jazz shows that we've seen in our lives. Are there any live jazz shows that stick out in your mind that really made an impact?
Yeah. Well, I saw Cecil Taylor and Tony Oxley about 10 years ago. That was really incredible. But early on, I saw Jack DeJohnette, Dave Holland, Herbie Hancock, and Pat Metheny in Boston. And I don't know if I heard it now. I don't know but I just remember that show just really, really blowing me away. I mean, I think I was maybe, I don't know, I was younger, but that one always stands out. It was kind of like a rock. It was kind of a huge show. It was an outdoor show, and they were incredible. But God, there's so many. I bet if I heard it now, it would still stand out.
My final question for you is this, so I can kind of get an idea of who you are. Everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, and your fans,
Sure.
but you know who you are. Who do you think you are?
Who do I think I am? You might have to edit this one out. You know, I'm curious, intense person. I'm curious, intense, like person who pays a lot of attention to detail, but also really enjoys when things go not as planned. I think that I'm a giving, intense, curious, and hardworking person. Good friend.
Yeah.
Loyal,
yeah.
intense, hardworking, malleable also. So, malleable in situations, especially musical.
Thanks for taking some time out to talk with me about the new album, about your career, and hopefully we'll see you in Kansas City at some point.
Yeah, great. Joe, thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Boston, New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Brandon for his music, his time, and his cool. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com. And for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.